I thought lending our new home to my in-laws for 3 days was just a nice gesture. Then came the shaking call telling me there were strangers inside and my family could not get in. I opened my security app, and my heart plummeted. It was not a break-in. These people looked comfortable. They moved through my living room with terrifying confidence, acting as if they had every right to be there, and I was the intruder. My name is Harper Caldwell. I am 34 years old, and for the better part of the last decade, my life has been defined by a single, obsessive goal. I wanted a front door that belonged to me, not a landlord, not a bank that owned 90% of the equity while I paid the interest, but me. 2 weeks ago, that obsession finally materialized in the form of a 4-bedroom colonial revival in a quiet, leafy suburb just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina. To anyone else driving past, it was just a house. It had charcoal shutters, a wraparound porch that needed a fresh coat of sealant, and a lawn that was slightly overgrown. But to me, it was the physical manifestation of every skipped vacation, every overtime shift, and every dollar I had squeezed into a high-yield savings account since I was 24. It was my symbol of freedom. I work as a senior project manager at Northbridge Civic Studio. My job is entirely about control, documentation, and mitigating risk. In my line of work, if you do not have a paper trail, you do not have a leg to stand on. I manage multi-million-dollar municipal contracts where a single missing signature can delay a project by 6 months. This professional paranoia has bled into my personal life. I do not like surprises. I like contingencies. I like knowing exactly who has access to my data and my space. So when my husband, Grant, approached me 3 days ago with that specific look on his face, the one that combines affection with a heavy dose of guilt, I knew my carefully controlled ecosystem was about to be challenged. We were standing in our brand new kitchen. I was unpacking boxes labeled fragile, unwrapping the crystal wine glasses my aunt had given us for our wedding. The afternoon light was pouring in through the bay window, hitting the oak floors we had just paid a fortune to refinish. It was perfect. It was quiet. Grant leaned against the quartz island and cleared his throat. "Honey," he started, his voice pitching up slightly. "My mom called. Their apartment complex in Gastonia has a major plumbing failure. A main line burst in the unit above them. There is water everywhere." I paused, a wine glass hovering in my hand. "That is terrible. Do they need help moving things?" "They need a place to stay," Grant said, rushing the words out. "Just for a few days, maybe 3 or 4 until the landlord gets the water shut off and the drywall dried out. They can't stay there. The smell is awful." I lowered the glass to the counter. I loved Grant. He was kind, steady, and generally supportive of my neuroses. But his family was a different story. His parents, Donna and Raymond, were not bad people, but they were chaotic. They were the type of people who forgot to lock doors, who lost keys, who thought expiration dates were mere suggestions. The idea of them inhabiting my pristine, untouched sanctuary before I had even hung the curtains made my skin prickle. "We have the guest room," Grant pressed, misinterpreting my silence. "Or, well, since we haven't actually moved the bed in there yet, they could take the master suite and we could stay at my sister Brielle's place for a couple of nights. It is closer to your office anyway." "Absolutely not," I said, perhaps too quickly. "I am not sleeping at Brielle's. Her apartment is a party zone." "Okay, then we stay here with them?" I looked around the kitchen. It was empty, clean, and mine. If we stayed here with them, it would be 4 adults sharing one bathroom because the second one was currently being retiled. It would be noise. It would be mess. Then I had a thought, a compromise. Grant and I had a pre-planned work trip combined with a staycation at a hotel downtown starting tomorrow anyway. A little reward we had booked months ago to celebrate the closing. The house would be empty for the next 72 hours. "Fine," I said, letting out a long breath. "They can stay here. We will be at the hotel downtown. But Grant, you have to make them promise. This is not a vacation rental. This is our home." Grant beamed, the relief washing over his face. "Of course, Harper. They are my parents. not rock stars. They just need a roof. I spent the next 2 hours drafting what could only be described as a user manual for our house. I was not being mean. I was being Harper Caldwell. I typed it out on my laptop, saved it as a PDF, and emailed it to both Grant and his mother. The rules were explicit. 1. Only Donna and Raymond are allowed on the property. No guests, no dropping by for coffee, no extended family visits. 2. No smoking near the house. 3. Do not touch the thermostat settings. The HVAC is calibrated for humidity control. 4. The security system stays armed at night. I went a step further. I set up temporary access codes for the front door smart lock. I programmed the code to activate at noon on Friday and expire at noon on Monday. I sent Donna a detailed text message with the code, a link to the video doorbell manual, and a gentle but firm reminder: please call us immediately if anything beeps or flashes. Do not try to fix it yourself. I felt a twinge of guilt as I hit send. Was I being too rigid? They were family. But then I looked at my white sofa, pristine and stain-free, and the guilt evaporated. I was protecting my investment. By Friday evening, Grant and I were seated at a corner table in a bistro called The Hearth. It was a celebration dinner. We had technically handed off the house 3 hours ago. According to the log on my phone, the front door had been unlocked using Donna's code at 3:15 in the afternoon. They were in. Grant raised his glass of Cabernet. "To the house," he said, his eyes crinkling with a smile. "And to you, for making it happen, and for being generous with Mom and Dad. I know it wasn't your first choice." I clinked my glass against his. "To the house," I echoed. "As long as they don't burn it down." "They won't," Grant laughed. "Mom sent me a text an hour ago saying the kitchen is fancy and they are afraid to touch the stove. They ordered pizza. See? Harmless." I took a sip of wine, letting the tension of the week finally dissolve. The bistro was loud, filled with the hum of Friday night chatter and the clatter of silverware. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders drop. We had done it. We owned the house. We had helped family. We were good people. My phone was sitting face down on the white tablecloth next to the bread basket. It vibrated once, then twice, then it began to buzz continuously, dancing slightly against the fabric. I frowned. "Work?" Grant asked. "No," I said, flipping it over. The screen lit up with the name Donna In-Law. My stomach tightened. It was 7:30. Why would they be calling? If they couldn't figure out the TV remote, they usually texted Grant. A phone call meant urgency. I slid the green icon across the screen and brought the phone to my ear, holding up a finger to Grant. "Donna," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Everything okay? Did you figure out the oven?" There was a pause on the other end. All I could hear was wind. The distinct, distorted rushing sound of wind hitting a microphone. They were outside. "Harper," Donna's voice came through, but it was thin and shaking. It sounded wet, like she had been crying or was about to start. "Donna, what is wrong?" I sat up straighter, my project manager brain instantly shifting into crisis mode. "Is there a leak? Did the alarm go off?" "Harper," she said again, her voice cracking. "We went out to get the pizza from the driver because he couldn't find the number. We were only outside for 2 minutes. "Okay," I said slowly. "And?" "The door locked behind us," she sobbed. "The automatic lock engaged. That is fine. I know. I have the code. But Harper..." Grant was staring at me now. His fork lowered, his eyebrows pulled together in concern. "The code doesn't work?" I asked, already mentally pulling up the smart home app to remotely unlock it for them. "It's okay, Donna. I can open it from here. Just give me a second." "No," Donna whispered, and the terror in her voice stopped my hand in midair. "It is not that the code doesn't work. It is that someone is inside." I froze. "What do you mean? Someone is inside? Who is inside?" "I don't know," she wailed. "We saw shadows. We heard voices. So we knocked. We thought maybe you came back. But Harper..." She took a jagged breath. "A man came to the window, a complete stranger. He looked at us and he He laughed. He wouldn't open the door. My blood ran cold. Donna, listen to me. Are you sure? Is it a burglar? No, she said, her voice trembling so hard I could barely understand her. The lights are all on. They are walking around. There are suitcases in the hallway. Harper, we tried the code again, and the lock flashed red. The man shouted through the door. He said we need to leave. Leave? I repeated, my voice rising. Leave my house? He said, Donna's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. He said there are strangers outside trying to break in. He meant us. Harper, we are locked out, and there are people in your house who act like they live there. The bistro noise faded into a dull roar around me. I looked at Grant, my face likely draining of all color. I didn't panic. I didn't scream. I felt a cold, sharp clarity descend over me, the same feeling I got when a contractor tried to hide a structural flaw. I lowered the phone from my ear and tapped the speaker button so Grant could hear. Then I minimized the call screen and opened my security camera app. Harper? Grant asked, panic rising in his chest. What is it? Get the check, I said, my voice sounding like it belonged to someone else. Right now, the glow of the smartphone screen was the only thing I could see. The warm, ambient lighting of the bistro, the clinking of silverware, and the low hum of happy couples around us faded into a meaningless background buzz. My thumb hovered over the North Bridge security icon. I took a breath that shuddered in my chest, forcing my face into a mask of rigid calm because I did not want to make a scene. I did not want to be the woman screaming in a nice restaurant. Not yet. I tapped the app. The loading circle spun for a second that felt like an hour. Connecting to living room cam. The feed snapped into focus, crystal clear and high definition. The image was so sharp I could see the dust motes dancing in the light of the floor lamp I had bought just 3 days ago. I expected to see darkness. I expected to see, at worst, a shadowy figure dressed in black rummaging through drawers in a frantic search for jewelry. That was what a burglary looked like. That was what fear looked like. But what I saw was far worse. The living room was bright. The overhead recessed lights were on at full capacity. Standing in the center of my Persian rug, the one I had spent 6 months bidding on, was a woman I had never seen before. She was young, perhaps late 20s, wearing a beige oversized sweater and leggings. She was not rushing. She was not hiding. She was laughing. She held a glass of red wine in her hand. My wine. From the bottle I had left on the counter for Donna and Raymond. Next to her stood a man in a flannel shirt, dragging a large, hard-shell suitcase on wheels. The sound was muted on my phone, but I could imagine the dull rumble of those plastic wheels rolling over my refinished oak floors. He parked the suitcase right next to my favorite armchair and then flopped down onto the cushions with a heavy, exhausted heedlessness. He put his feet up on the coffee table. He put his shoes on my coffee table. My stomach did not just drop. It vanished. It was a physical blow, a hollowing out of my insides. This was not a crime scene. This looked like a hotel lobby. They looked like travelers checking into an Airbnb, discussing dinner plans and unpacking their toiletries. I swiped left with a trembling finger. Connecting to front door cam. This view was angled downward from the doorbell. I could see the tops of Donna and Raymond's heads. They were huddled together on the porch, shivering slightly in the evening air. But beyond them, inside the frame of the open door, was a third stranger. This man was older, wearing a utility vest. He was kneeling on the floor of my entryway. A tool bag was unzipped beside him. I watched, paralyzed, as he took a cordless drill and drove a screw into the door frame. He was not breaking the lock. He was installing something. He was modifying the hardware of my home while my in-laws stood 3 feet away, helpless. "Harper?" Grant whispered. He had seen the blood drain from my face. He reached across the table to touch my hand, but I pulled away. I could not be touched right now. I needed to see everything. I swiped again. Connecting to kitchen cam. The refrigerator door was wide open. The woman from the living room had walked in. She was rummaging through the shelves, moving my meal prep containers aside to make room for a 6-pack of beer and a carton of milk she must have brought with her. She pulled a piece of paper from her pocket. It was a standard sheet of printer paper. She took a strip of blue painter's tape and affixed the paper to the stainless steel door of my refrigerator. I zoomed in, pinching the screen with 2 fingers. The resolution was good, but not good enough to read the fine print. However, I could read the header written in bold, black marker. House rules. I felt a wave of nausea rise in my throat. They were posting rules in my house. "Donna," I said into the phone, my voice barely a whisper, breathless and tight. "Are you seeing this? The man at the door?" "He won't talk to us anymore," Donna whimpered. The wind was picking up on her end, distorting her voice. "He told us to stop banging or he would call the police on us. Harper. He said we are the ones trespassing. He asked if we could read the sign." "What sign?" I demanded. "There is a paper taped to the glass of the front door," Donna said. "It says, 'Private property, no soliciting, guest entry only.'" I switched the camera view one last time. Connecting to hallway cam. This was the feed that broke me. A 4th person, a teenager or young adult male, was walking down the hallway holding a phone up, filming vertically. He was doing a slow pan of the artwork I had hung on the walls. He was narrating. I tapped the audio icon to unmute the stream. The sound of his voice blasted tinny and small from my phone speakers, cutting through the ambient jazz of the restaurant. "And check out this vibe. Guys, super spacious, great lighting. Bedroom 1 is over here, totally private. We are going to have a crazy weekend. Link in bio if you want the details for next time." I slammed the volume down. This was not a break-in. This was an occupation. "Grant," I said. My voice sounded jagged, like broken glass. Grant was staring at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. "Harper, talk to me. Is it a squatter? Did someone break a window?" I did not answer him. I looked back at the screen. I needed to verify one last thing. The engineer in me needed the data point to confirm the hypothesis. I opened the settings tab for the smart lock. I scrolled down to the access log. 1800 hours. Master code used. 1805 hours. Master code changed manually. 1810 hours. Guest codes deleted. 1812 hours. Biometric reset initiated. My breath hitched. They had not just picked the lock. They had factory reset the system. They had the administrative privileges. To the digital brain of my house. I was no longer the owner. They changed the code, I said. The words tasted like ash. Donna didn't type it wrong. The code doesn't exist anymore. They deleted us. "Who?" Grant demanded. His voice was getting louder, attracting the attention of the couple at the next table. "Who deleted us?" I stood up. My legs felt weak, but the adrenaline was starting to pump, turning the fear into a cold, hard rage. I walked around the table and shoved the phone into Grant's hand. "Look," I commanded. Grant looked down. He saw the woman on the sofa drinking our wine. He saw the man drilling into our doorframe. He saw the kid filming our hallway. I watched his face transform. It went from confusion to shock, and then to a pale, slack-jawed disbelief. He swiped through the cameras just as I had, his movements becoming more frantic with each new angle. "That is," he stammered, "that is my dad's toolbox. No, wait, that isn't Dad. Who is that guy?" "I don't know," I said. "Why are they—" Grant looked up at me, his eyes pleading for a rational explanation. "Why are they so calm? They look like they are on vacation. Harper." "They think they are," I said. The realization settled over me, heavy and suffocating. "They don't think they are robbing us, Grant. They think they live there, or they think they have the right to be there." Grant looked back at the phone. "But Mom and Dad are right outside. Why don't they just open the door?" "Because to them," I said, leaning in close, my voice dropping to a hiss, "your parents are the strangers. Look at them. Grant, look at the confidence. Look at the luggage. Look at the way they are taping things to the fridge." I grabbed my purse. "This isn't a misunderstanding," I said, my voice steadying into the tone I used when a contractor tried to bill me for materials they never delivered. It was the tone of absolute, non-negotiable authority. "This is a hostile takeover. Someone sold them our house, or rented it to them, or told them it was empty, and they came prepared to hold it." Grant stood up, knocking his napkin off the table. "I am calling the police. I am going to tell them someone broke in." "Do it," I said, "but tell them it is a home invasion in progress. Tell them the intruders have barricaded the door and trapped the residents outside, because if you just say trespassing, they will take an hour to get there." I looked at the phone in his hand one last time. On the screen, the woman in the living room had just picked up the remote control, my remote control, and was settling in to watch a movie. She looked so comfortable. She looked so at home. And that was the most terrifying thing of all. Violence is scary, but it is chaotic. This was order. This was a systematic replacement of my existence. They hadn't just broken into the structure. They had stolen the narrative of the house. As far as anyone inside those four walls was concerned, Harper and Grant Caldwell did not exist. "Let's go," I said, throwing a $100 bill onto the table without waiting for the check. "Drive fast." I sat in the passenger seat of our SUV, the leather cold against my legs despite the summer heat. Grant was driving, his knuckles white as he gripped the steering wheel. He was doing 40 in a 25 zone, tearing through the winding streets of our subdivision. "I am calling the police," I said. It was not a question. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the same flat, unyielding tone I used when firing a non-compliant subcontractor. Grant glanced at me, his eyes wide and frantic in the rearview mirror reflection. "Harper, wait, maybe we should just get there first? Mom and Dad are right there. If the police show up with guns drawn and my parents are standing on the porch, someone could get hurt. Let's just talk to these people. It has to be a mistake." I turned to him, and I felt a muscle in my jaw jump. "Grant, look at the facts. They did not just walk through an unlocked door. They drilled into the frame. They reset the biometric data. That is not a mistake. That is a hostile act. If we walk up there without backup, we are putting ourselves in a volatile situation with four strangers who have already proven they do not respect boundaries." "But Mom—" "Your mother is the reason I am calling." I cut him off. "The longer she stands on that porch, the more danger she is in. If those people feel cornered, or if they are on drugs, or if they are armed, Donna is the first line of collateral damage. I am not gambling with her safety." I did not wait for his agreement. I tapped the screen of my phone, switching from the camera app to the dialer, but before I hit the call button for emergency services, I made a split-second decision that came from years of managing liability risk. Evidence first, reaction second. I minimized the phone app and went back to the security dashboard. If these intruders were sophisticated enough to reset the lock, they might be smart enough to locate the Wi-Fi hub and cut the internet connection. If the connection went down, I would lose the live feed. I needed hard copies. Now. I tapped the History tab. My fingers moved with flying precision. Select, download, save to cloud. I pulled the clip of the man drilling the lock. I pulled the clip of the woman rummaging through the fridge. I pulled the clip of the boy filming the hallway. I watched the progress bar crawl from 0% to 100%. Every second felt like a physical weight pressing on my chest. "Come on," I whispered. "Save it. Don't you dare crash on me." Download complete. I exhaled. The data was off the local drive. It was in the cloud. No matter what happened to the physical hardware in the house, the evidence was untouchable. Then, and only then, did I dial 911. The ringback tone purred twice before a dispatcher picked up. "Emergency services, what is your location?" "My name is Harper Caldwell," I said, my voice steady, stripped of all emotion. "I am the owner of the property at 4210 Elmwood Drive. I have a break-in in progress. I am currently monitoring the situation via live remote camera feed." "Are you in the house, ma'am?" "No, I am 2 minutes away, but my in-laws are on the front porch. They are locked out. There are at least 4 individuals inside the home. They have physically altered the locks and are refusing entry to the homeowners. Are their weapons visible? I paused, thinking back to the man in the foyer. One subject is holding a power drill. Another has a tool bag. I cannot confirm firearms, but they have engaged in destruction of property to gain access. Okay, Harper, I have units dispatching now. I need you to listen to me. Do not approach the house. Do not attempt to make contact with the individuals inside. Park your vehicle down the street and wait for officers to arrive. Do you understand? I understand, I said. Please advise the officers that my in-laws, an elderly couple, are on the porch. Do not confuse them with the intruders. Noted. Stay on the line if you can. I kept the line open but muted myself. I switched apps again to call Donna. She picked up on the first ring. Harper, where are you? The man turned the porch light off. It is dark out here. I am almost there. Donna, listen to me very carefully. Do not knock on the door again. Do not shout at them. I want you and Raymond to walk down the driveway. Go stand by the mailbox, right now. But Harper, our bags are on the porch. Leave the bags, I commanded. My voice was sharp, cutting through her panic. Get away from the house. If they open that door, I do not want you standing within reach of them. Go to the street. Is Raymond with you? Yes, he is holding my arm. Good. Move. Now. I heard the shuffle of footsteps and the heavy breathing of 2 frightened people as they retreated from the home they were supposed to be enjoying. Grant took a sharp left turn, the tires screeching slightly against the asphalt. We were 1 street over. Stop here, I told him. What? No. I am driving to the driveway, Grant argued, his foot hovering over the gas. The dispatcher said stay back, I said. We do not block the police. Pull over. Grant cursed under his breath, a rare sound for him, but he pulled the car to the curb 3 houses down from ours. We were close enough to see the silhouette of our roofline against the night sky, but far enough to stay out of the direct line of fire. I looked at the house. From here, it looked infuriatingly normal. The warm yellow light spilled out from the living room windows, casting a cozy glow onto the front lawn. It looked like a home where a happy family was having a game night. It made my stomach churn. That light was mine. That electricity was being paid for by my bank account. I picked up my phone again. While we waited for the sirens, I had one more message to send. I opened my text thread with Sarah, a friend from college who worked as a senior claims adjuster for a major home insurance firm. It was late, almost 9 o'clock at night, but I knew she was a night owl. I typed fast. Urgent. Strangers in my new house. Not a standard break-in. They have luggage and changed the locks. Police en route. What do I need to document to ensure coverage for vandalism or squatting? Need immediate advice. I stared at the house. My phone buzzed with a reply from Sarah almost instantly. Do not let them establish residency. Do not accept money from them. Get a police report number immediately. If they show a lease, even a fake one, the police might walk away. Fight it. Say trespassing and breaking and entering. Do not say tenant dispute. Good luck. Do not say tenant dispute. I repeated the words out loud, burning them into my brain. Donna and Raymond came walking up the sidewalk toward our car. Donna looked small and frail in the streetlights. She was clutching her purse to her chest like a shield. Raymond looked bewildered, his face pale and sweating. Grant jumped out of the car and ran to them. Mom! Dad! Are you okay? Donna collapsed into Grant's arms, sobbing. Oh, Grant, we didn't do anything wrong. I promise. We just went to get the pizza. I stepped out of the car, smoothing my blazer. I needed to be the calmest person on this street. I walked over to them, my heels clicking rhythmically on the pavement. Harper, Donna looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed and pleading. We just wanted to stay a few days. I am so sorry. We ruined everything. I looked at her. I felt a pang of sympathy, but I pushed it down. Sympathy was not useful right now. Strategy was useful. You didn't ruin anything, Donna, I said, my voice low and even. You are the victims here, but you need to stop apologizing. You need to be angry. Someone has stolen your peace of mind and my property. I don't understand who they are, Raymond said, shaking his head. They looked right through us. We will find out, I said. But right now, I need you both to stay by the car. Do not interfere with the police. Let me do the talking. I have the deed on my phone. I have the purchase agreement. I have the video evidence. You are so calm, Donna whispered, wiping her eyes. How can you be so calm? There are strangers in your kitchen. I am not calm, Donna, I said, looking past her toward the house. I am preparing. Preparing for what? Grant asked, looking at me with a mix of fear and admiration. For a war, I said. Because people who change locks within 10 minutes of arrival do not leave just because you ask them nicely. At that moment, the street was illuminated by a silent wash of blue and red light. No sirens, no wailing announcement of arrival, just the sudden, strobe-like flash of authority reflecting off the windows of my house. 2 patrol cars rolled up the street, their engines humming low. They parked at an angle, blocking the driveway. The doors opened, and 4 officers stepped out. They did not rush. They adjusted their belts, their hands resting near their holsters, scanning the property with professional detachment. I walked toward them. I did not run. I did not wave my arms. I walked with the stride of a woman who owned the pavement beneath her feet. Officers, I called out, stopping 5 feet away from the lead policeman. I am Harper Caldwell. I am the homeowner. The officer, a tall man with a nameplate that read Sergeant Miller, looked at me and then at the house. You called about an active intrusion? Yes, I said. 4 individuals, unforced entry initially, followed by hardware modification. They are currently in the living room and kitchen, my in-laws. I pointed back to the car. We're locked out by these individuals. Do you know them? Miller asked. Is this a rental property? An Airbnb? No, I said firmly. This is my primary residence. Purchased 2 weeks ago. No tenants. No guests authorized other than my parents. This is a criminal trespass. All right, Miller said. He signaled to his partner. We are going to make contact. You stay here. I watched them walk up the driveway. My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, but I kept my hands clasped in front of me to hide the shaking. They walked up the path to my front porch. They stepped onto the welcome mat I had bought at a clearance sale. Officer Miller raised his hand and knocked on my door. It was a heavy, authoritative rap that echoed in the quiet suburban night. Bang, bang, bang. Police department, he shouted. Open the door. For a long moment, nothing happened. The house stood silent. Then, I saw the curtain in the living room window twitch. The woman was peeking out. I held my breath. The lock beeped, not the sound of a key turning, but the electronic chirp of the keypad being disengaged from the inside. The door opened. And for the first time, I saw the enemy in the flesh, not through a pixelated screen. The man who had been drilling the frame stepped out. He was not cowering. He was not running. He held a piece of paper in his hand, and he looked at the police officer with an expression of mild annoyance, as if the cops were the ones interrupting his dinner. Can I help you, officer? The man asked. His voice carried down the driveway. It was smooth, confident. My stomach dropped. Sarah's text flashed in my mind. If they show a lease, the police might walk away. I took a step forward, unable to help myself. Do not let them lie, I whispered to the night air. Please, do not let them lie. I stood at the edge of the driveway, bathed in the strobe light effect of the red and blue police cruisers. My phone was in my hand, and my thumb was pressed hard against the screen. Maximizing the volume on the video doorbell feed, I was physically 20 feet away, but digitally, I was standing right between my sobbing mother-in-law and the man who had stolen my house. The video feed lagged by a fraction of a second. On the screen, I saw Sergeant Miller adjust his belt and shine his flashlight directly into the face of the man standing in my doorway. The stranger did not blink. He did not shield his eyes. He leaned against the doorframe, my doorframe, painted a custom shade of slate gray just last week. with an air of casual annoyance. He held a smartphone in his hand, the screen glowing bright against the night. "Is there a problem, officer?" the man asked. His voice was tinny through my phone speaker, but I could hear the arrogance dripping from every syllable. "We are trying to have dinner." "We had a report of a break-in," Miller said, his hand resting instinctively near his holster. "And we have 2 individuals here claiming to be the homeowners who say they have been locked out." Miller gestured to Donna and Raymond, who were huddled near the porch railing. Donna looked small, her shoulders shaking. Raymond looked like he was having a bad dream he could not wake up from. The stranger laughed. It was a short, dry sound. "Locked out? Yeah, that happens when you don't have the reservation." "Reservation?" Miller asked. The word hung in the humid night air. I felt a cold prickle at the back of my neck. I began walking up the driveway, my heels clicking on the concrete, closing the distance. I needed to hear this clearly, not through digital compression. "This isn't a hotel," Donna burst out. Her voice was high and cracking with hysteria. "This is my son and daughter-in-law's house. We were just here. We went to get pizza." The stranger looked at Donna with a pitying sneer. He tapped his phone screen and turned it toward the police officer. "Look," the man said, "I don't know who these people are. Maybe they are confused. Maybe they are the previous owners or something. But we are here legally. We have a contract." I stopped walking. I was 10 feet away now. The word hit me like a physical slap. Contract. "Show me," Miller said. He leaned in to look at the stranger's phone. "See right there," the stranger said, scrolling with his thumb. "Booking confirmed. Check-in date. Today, Friday the 2nd. Checkout date, Monday the 5th. 4 guests. Paid in full, $1,200 plus a cleaning fee." "That is a lie!" Donna screamed. Raymond had to grab her arm to keep her from lunging at the man. "Harper just bought this house. There is no booking." The stranger looked past the police officer, locking eyes with Donna, and then his gaze drifted to me as I stepped into the circle of light. He didn't know who I was, but he saw the way I was looking at him. He didn't flinch. "Lady," the stranger said, his voice dropping to a condescending drawl. "You say it is your house? Who believes that? We have the master code to the door. We have the booking confirmation. We have the email from the host giving us the instructions. You guys are the ones banging on the door in the middle of the night without a key." Booking. The word echoed in my head, bouncing around and rearranging the entire puzzle. My heart began to hammer against my ribs, a frantic rhythm that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with realization. This wasn't a random break-in. This wasn't a junkie looking for copper wire or a squatter looking for a warm bed for the night. This was a transaction. I stepped forward, moving past the bumper of the police cruiser. "Officer Miller," I said. My voice was steady, clearer than I felt. Miller turned to me. "Ma'am, you are the homeowner?" "I am," I said. "And I have never listed this property for rent. Not on Airbnb, not on Vrbo, not on Craigslist, nowhere." The stranger rolled his eyes. "Look, I don't know about your internal drama. Maybe the husband listed it and didn't tell the wife. Happens all the time. But we paid. We are staying." He made a move to close the door. "Hold on," Miller said, stepping onto the threshold and blocking the door with his boot. "Do not close this door." The stranger sighed, looking exaggeratedly bored. "Am I under arrest? Because if not, I would like to get back to my evening. I have rights as a tenant." "You are not a tenant if the lease is fraudulent," I snapped. I pulled up the document folder on my phone. "Officer, here is the deed recorded with the county clerk 2 weeks ago. Here is my driver's license with this address. Here is the mortgage statement dated yesterday." Miller looked at my phone, then back at the stranger. "She has proof of ownership, hard proof. What do you have?" "I have a digital receipt," the stranger said, waving his phone again. "From a verified platform. Look, do you want me to call the host? I can call the host right now." "Who is the host?" I demanded. "Name is..." The stranger scrolled down his screen. "Name listed is Luxury Charlotte Stays, Superhost status." "That is not a person," I said. "That is a shell." Miller's partner, a younger officer who had been silent until now, stepped closer to the door. He wasn't looking at the phones. He was looking at the lock. "Sarge," the younger officer said, "look at this." Miller turned his flashlight onto the door mechanism. I followed the beam of light. The beautiful matte black smart lock I had installed, a top-of-the-line model that cost me $400, was sitting slightly askew. The faceplate was scratched, but more damning was the wood of the door frame itself. There were fresh wood shavings on the floor. "This hasn't just been unlocked," the younger officer noted, leaning in. "The strike plate has been moved. There are new drill holes here, and look at the side of the keypad. There are pry marks." Miller looked at the stranger. His demeanor shifted instantly. The civil dispute boredom vanished, replaced by police suspicion. "You said you had a code," Miller said, his voice hardening. "Why is there tool damage on the lock?" The stranger didn't miss a beat. It was terrifying how quickly he pivoted. "The code didn't work at first," he said smoothly. "We called the host. He said the battery might be dead or the mechanism was jammed. He told us to do whatever we needed to do to get in, and he would cover the damages. He said, 'I'll send a guy to fix it later.' So my buddy fixed it. We have a right to access the unit we paid for." "You drilled into a house that isn't yours," Miller said. "A house we rented," the stranger corrected. "Look, if there is a problem with the ownership, that is between you and the landlord. We are just customers. We are the victims here, really. We paid for a luxury stay and now we are being harassed by the police." "You are not victims," I said, my voice shaking with suppressed rage. "You are trespassing, and you destroyed my property." "Civil matter," the stranger said, tossing the phrase out like a magic shield. "If you want us out, evict us. Take it to court on Monday. But right now, we have possession, we have a key, and we have a contract." He looked at me then, a cold, flat stare that told me he had done this before. He knew the loopholes better than I knew the layout of my own kitchen. "You can't just kick a family out on the street at 10 o'clock at night because of a paperwork error," he said to the officer, his voice dropping to a reasonable, persuasive tone. "We have a kid inside. You really going to drag a kid out?" Miller hesitated. I saw it. I saw the hesitation in the way he shifted his weight. "Officer," I said, stepping between Miller and the stranger, "this is not a tenancy. There is no lease. A booking app receipt is not a lease. This is breaking and entering. Look at the drill marks. Look at my in-laws shaking in the driveway." "Ma'am," Miller said, holding up a hand to silence me, "if they have a booking confirmation, and they have established entry—" "Established entry?" I laughed, a harsh, incredulous sound. "They have been here for 4 hours. They broke the lock." "Which they claim the landlord authorized," Miller pointed out. "I can't adjudicate a contract dispute on a front porch. Ma'am, if they have a valid-looking rental agreement, I cannot forcibly remove them without a court order. That is the law in North Carolina." "Show me the agreement," I demanded, turning to the stranger. "Show me the name of the person you paid." The stranger smirked. He turned his phone screen toward me again. "Right there," he said. "Host name." I squinted at the bright screen. It was a generic interface from a third-party booking site I recognized. The photos were definitely my house. The description was accurate. Modern colonial, newly renovated. But my eyes drifted down to the contact section, to the tiny profile picture of the host. It was a stock photo of a smiling woman, but the name underneath it wasn't Harper, and it wasn't Grant. The name listed was the Blue Door Group. "I have never heard of them," I said. "Well," the stranger said, shrugging. "They certainly know this house. They knew the Wi-Fi password. They knew the garage code. They knew where the breaker box was." He leaned forward, his face inches from the doorframe, and delivered the sentence that made my blood freeze in my veins. "They knew the previous owners had just moved out," he said softly, so only the officer and I could hear. "And they knew the new owners, that's you, I guess, would be away for the weekend. They said the house was vacant and ready. So if you have a problem, lady, you talk to the person who sold us the key. because we are not going anywhere." He looked at Miller. "Officer, unless you have a warrant, I am closing this door. My wife is scared." Miller looked at me. He looked at the paperwork on my phone. Then he looked at the drill marks. He was torn, but the gray area was wide enough to drive a truck through. "We need to verify this booking," Miller said. "But for now, if they are established inside—" "You have got to be kidding me," Grant said. Stepping up behind me, he had been listening from the driveway. "You are going to let them stay?" "We are not letting them stay," Miller said. "We are saying we can't drag them out in handcuffs until we prove this isn't a civil misunderstanding. It's Friday night. Courts are closed." The stranger smiled. It was a small, victorious twitch of the lips. "Good night, officers," he said. And then he closed the door. He didn't slam it. He closed it firmly, and I heard the mechanical whir of the drill-modified lock engaging. Click. I stood there, staring at the charcoal gray wood of my own front door. I was standing on my own welcome mat, and I was locked out. But something the stranger said was clawing at the back of my mind. They knew the garage code. I hadn't given the garage code to Donna. I hadn't given it to anyone. I had only set it up yesterday. And the only person who had been there when I set it up was the person who had casually asked me if the new system was hard to memorize. I turned around slowly, looking away from the house and out toward the dark street where my car was parked. "Grant," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "Yeah?" he asked, his face pale. "Give me your phone," I said. "I need to look at your sister's social media." Sergeant Miller finally lost the thin veneer of patience he had been maintaining. After the stranger closed the door in his face, the atmosphere on the front lawn shifted from a civil inquiry to a tense standoff. Miller pounded on the door again, this time with the heel of his hand, hard enough to rattle the glass pane. "Open this door," Miller barked. "Right now. I am not asking. I need everyone out on the porch. We are going to verify these documents, and we are going to do it where I can see everyone's hands. If you have a valid contract, you have nothing to worry about. But if you keep this door locked, I am treating this as a barricade situation." There was a long, heavy silence. Then, the lock whirred again. The stranger opened the door, looking significantly less smug than before. Behind him, the woman and the other man appeared, looking annoyed but compliant. They stepped out onto the porch, their arms crossed, creating a sullen line of defense. They did not leave the property, but they vacated the interior, standing under the watchful eyes of Miller's partner. "Stay there," Miller ordered. "Nobody goes back inside until we figure out who actually has the right to be here." While Miller began the tedious process of cross-referencing their digital booking receipt with his dispatch database, I retreated to the relative quiet of the driveway. I needed to think. My brain was itching with the one detail that didn't fit: the garage code. The strangers claimed they knew the code, but the garage keypad was not connected to the internet. It was an old-fashioned, hardwired system. You could not hack it remotely. You had to know the 4 digits, and I had only set those 4 digits yesterday evening. I unlocked my phone and opened the security app again. I did not look at the live feed this time. I went to the timeline. I scrolled back past the arrival of the strangers at 6 o'clock. I scrolled past Donna and Raymond's arrival at 3 o'clock. I went back to the empty hours, the silence of the afternoon. 1 o'clock, nothing. 12 o'clock, nothing. I kept scrolling, my thumb moving rhythmically, and then, at 11:40 in the morning, a motion event marker appeared on the timeline. Motion detected. Side entrance. My heart hammered against my ribs. The side entrance was the door leading from the garage into the mudroom. It was the door I usually used. I pressed play. The video quality was sharp. The sun was high, casting harsh shadows against the siding. A figure walked into the frame. It was a woman. She was not wearing a mask. She was wearing a beige trench coat, large sunglasses, and a baseball cap pulled low. She walked with a brisk, purposeful stride. She punched the code into the garage keypad without hesitation. 1, 9, 8, 4, my birth year. The garage door rumbled open. She slipped inside. I switched to the interior camera in the mudroom. The figure stepped inside the house. She took off the sunglasses and hooked them onto the neckline of her shirt. She adjusted her cap. Then, she raised her left hand to check her watch. The camera caught the glint of metal on her wrist. It was a charm bracelet, a silver Pandora bracelet with a distinctive dangling charm in the shape of a coffee cup. I stopped breathing. The air in my lungs turned into solid lead. I knew that bracelet. I knew it because I had bought the coffee cup charm 3 months ago for her birthday. I had wrapped it in blue tissue paper and given it to her over brunch, and she had hugged me and told me I was the best sister-in-law ever. I zoomed in on the face, even with the cap. The jawline was unmistakable. The slightly pointed chin, the way she chewed on her lower lip when she was concentrating. It was Brielle, Grant's younger sister, the 29-year-old who claimed she was swamped with work and couldn't help us move boxes. The sister who had texted me yesterday asking for a picture of the new kitchen because she was so excited for us. I watched, frozen, as Brielle walked through my house. She didn't look like a visitor. She looked like an inspector. She walked into the living room, took photos of the empty space with her phone. She went into the kitchen and opened the drawers. She checked the thermostat. Then, she did something that made me nauseous. She walked to the front door, the smart lock I was so proud of, and pulled a small gray box out of her pocket. It looked like a bridge device used for pairing smart home gadgets. She plugged it into the wall outlet near the door. She held her phone up to the lock. I quickly toggled over to the system logs, matching the timestamp on the video. 11:45 a.m. Admin access granted via Bluetooth. 11:46 a.m. New user added. Guest. 11:47 a.m. Access schedule modified. Priority level 1. She hadn't just broken in. She had cloned the digital keys. She had set the house up to accept the strangers' codes before they even arrived. I felt a wave of dizziness. This wasn't a random scam. This was an inside job. It was family. I looked up from my phone. Across the lawn, Grant was standing next to his parents. He was rubbing his mother's back, trying to comfort her. They looked so pathetic, so victimized. I walked over to them. My legs felt stiff, mechanical. I felt like I was walking underwater. "Grant," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears. It was too calm. It was the calm of a bomb technician right before they cut the red wire. Grant looked up, his face etched with worry. "Did you find anything? Did the police kick them out yet?" "Come here," I said. "You too, Donna, Raymond." I led them a few steps away, into the shadow of the large oak tree, away from the police and the strangers on the porch. "I need you to look at this," I said. I held the phone out. The video was paused on the frame where Brielle was standing in my kitchen, the charm bracelet clearly visible. "Who is that?" Grant asked, squinting. "Is that one of the squatters?" "Look closer," I whispered. Grant leaned in. He studied the image. Then, he stiffened. He pulled back as if the phone had burned him. "No," he said. He shook his head, a jerky, violent motion. "No, that is not. That looks like—" "It is Brielle," I said. "That is impossible," Grant stammered. "Brielle is at work. She is at her office. She told me she had a deadline." "Brielle has my garage code," I said, my voice rising slightly. "Brielle walked into this house 6 hours before the strangers arrived. She used a device to reprogram the lock. She set this up, Grant." "Why would she do that?" Grant looked at me, his eyes wide and wet with confusion. "Why would she let strangers into our house? That makes no sense." I turned to Donna and Raymond. I expected them to be shocked. I expected Donna to gasp, to deny it, to say that her daughter would never do such a thing. But Donna didn't gasp. She went still. She looked at the image on the phone, and then she looked at Raymond. It was a fleeting glance, lasting less than a second, but I saw it. It was a look of shared knowledge, a look of panic. "Mom?" Grant asked, his voice cracking. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Donna twisted the strap of her purse with trembling hands. Well, maybe she just stopped by to drop off a gift? Maybe she wanted to surprise you. A gift? I asked, my voice dripping with ice. She reprogrammed the lock. Donna, she didn't leave a fruit basket. She left a back door open for these people. She has been having a hard time, Raymond muttered. He was looking at the ground, refusing to meet my eyes. She has been under a lot of pressure. The world tilted on its axis. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. No, Donna cried out, too quickly. We didn't know about this. We didn't know about the strangers. But you knew she was up to something, I pressed. You knew she needed money, or you knew she was using the house. She said, Raymond started, then stopped, swallowing hard. She said she just needed to borrow the address for a credit application, or something like that. She said she needed to show she had assets. Borrow the address? I repeated, the absurdity of the phrase hitting me. So you let her pretend this was her house? She said it wouldn't hurt anyone, Donna sobbed. She said she just needed to list it on some papers for a few days to get a loan approved. We didn't know she was going to rent it out to people. We thought she just needed the mail to come here. So when you called me, I said, stepping closer to Donna, when you called me crying that you were locked out, you weren't just scared of the strangers. You were scared because you knew Brielle had done something, and you were afraid I would find out. Donna covered her face with her hands. We just wanted to stay for a few days. We thought if we were here, she wouldn't do anything foolish. We thought we could keep an eye on it. You were babysitting the crime scene, I said. The betrayal was so sharp it felt like a physical wound. They hadn't just been careless. They had been complicit. They had prioritized their daughter's shady schemes over my safety, over my property, and over the truth. I looked back at the house. The strangers were still on the porch, arguing with the police officer about their rights. They were pawns, annoying, destructive pawns. But pawns nonetheless. The real enemy wasn't the man in the flannel shirt. The real enemy was the woman I had spent Thanksgiving with, the woman who had toasted to my happiness at my wedding. And the two people standing in front of me, looking like frightened children, were her accomplices. Grant, I said. I didn't look at his parents. I looked straight at my husband. Did you know? No, Grant whispered. He looked like he was going to be sick. Harper, I swear to God, I had no idea. I knew she was broke. I knew she was asking Mom and Dad for money. But this is insane. It is not insane, I said, turning back to the police. It is fraud. It is criminal impersonation, and I am going to burn it all down. I walked away from them. I walked straight up to Sergeant Miller. Officer, I said, I have new evidence. Miller looked up from his notepad. What is it? I know how they got the codes, I said, and I know who the host is. It is not a civil dispute anymore. It is identity theft and unauthorized access to a computer system. I held up my phone. I want to file a report against Brielle Caldwell, I said, my voice ringing out clearly in the night air, loud enough for Donna to hear and wail. And I want these people off my property, now. The stranger on the porch heard me. He looked at me, then at the phone in my hand. For the first time, he looked unsure. Brielle? He asked. You mean Bree? The lady who met us at the coffee shop to give us the keys? I turned to him, a savage smile touching my lips. Yes, I said. Bree, thank you for confirming she gave you the keys. You just admitted to conspiring with a non-owner. That makes your contract void. I turned back to Miller. Get them out of my house. I stepped back into the shadows of the large oak tree near the curb. The flashing blue lights of the police cruisers were making my eyes ache, and the chaotic scene on the porch. Sergeant Miller arguing with the man in the flannel shirt, Donna sobbing into a tissue, felt like a distraction. The real crime was not happening on my porch. It was happening in the cloud. I needed to find the source. The stranger had waved his phone at me like a shield, talking about a booking. If there was a booking, there was a listing. I opened the App Store on my phone and downloaded the 3 most popular short-term rental applications. My fingers flew across the glass. I did not have an account, so I had to register as a guest. I typed in a fake name, Jane Doe, and used my secondary email address. I entered the search parameters: Charlotte, North Carolina, entire home, 4 guests, available tonight. The map populated with hundreds of pins. I zoomed in on my neighborhood. My thumb hovered over my street. There were usually no rentals here. It was a residential zone with strict homeowner association rules against transients. But there, right on top of my lot, was a pin. I tapped it. The listing title read, Luxury Modern Escape, Brand New and Private. My heart hammered against my ribs as the photos loaded. The first image was my living room, but it was not a professional real estate photo from when we bought the house. It was a photo taken from a low angle, slightly crooked. I recognized the throw blanket on the sofa. I had draped that blanket there myself yesterday morning. I swiped to the next photo, the dining room. And there it was, the smoking gun. Hanging above the dining table was the geometric brass chandelier I had installed with Grant just 3 days ago. We had bought it on sale, and Grant had cursed for 2 hours trying to get the wiring flush with the ceiling. It was unique, it was unmistakable, and it was in the photo. Whoever took this picture had been in my house after we installed the light and before we left for the hotel. I looked at the host profile. The name was listed as Bree C., not Brielle, just Bree, a generic, friendly nickname. The profile picture was a photo of a golden retriever. No human face, no verification badge. I scrolled down to the contact info. There was a button to call host. I tapped it. My phone switched to the dialer. The number that popped up was not Brielle's personal cell number. It was a 980 area code, a local number. But when I hit dial, it rang once and went straight to a generic, robotic voicemail. The subscriber you have called is not available. It was a burner number, a disposable line you could buy for $5 at a gas station or set up through a privacy app. I went back to the listing. I needed to see the calendar. I clicked on Check Availability. What I saw made my stomach turn over. The entire month was grayed out, not because it was unavailable, but because it was booked. Friday the 2nd, Saturday the 3rd, Sunday the 4th. But then I noticed something strange. The calendar showed multiple tentative blocks for the same weekend. I refreshed the page. The price for tonight had dropped to $80. $80. She was selling my home for the price of a roadside motel room just to get bodies in the door. I looked at the reviews. There were 0 reviews. This was a ghost listing. It had popped up out of nowhere, likely within the last 24 hours, designed to harvest quick cash before anyone noticed. I took screenshots of everything: the photos, the host name, the burner number, the calendar. Then, I saw the notification bell on the app light up. I wasn't logged in as the host, obviously, but as I browsed similar listings in the area, a pop-up warning appeared on the screen. High demand. 4 people are looking at this property right now. It wasn't just the family inside. As if on cue, a pair of headlights swept across the lawn. I looked up. A silver sedan was driving slowly down the street. It slowed down as it approached my driveway, which was currently blocked by the police cars. The driver rolled down the window, looking confused. I walked over to the curb as the car came to a halt. "Can I help you?" I asked, my voice flat. The driver was a young guy, maybe 20 years old. He looked at the police cars, and then at his phone. Yeah," he said. "Is this 4210 Elmwood? We booked a place for the after-party." "The after-party?" I repeated. "Yeah," the guy said. "We got a confirmation for tonight. The host sent us the code. Said to come in through the garage if the front door was sticky." I closed my eyes for a brief second. She hadn't just rented it to one family. She had double-booked it, or triple-booked it. She was running a deposit scam. She was taking money from anyone who clicked reserve, sending them all the same stolen codes, and letting them fight it out when they arrived. "Turn around," I said to the kid. "You have been scammed. The police are here. The house is not for rent." "But I paid $200 deposit." "You are never seeing that money again," I said. "Go home." The kid looked at the cops, realized I wasn't joking, and peeled away. I turned and marched back up the driveway. Sergeant Miller needed to see this. This wasn't just trespassing. This was a digital Ponzi scheme with my address as the bait. Miller was still talking to the flannel shirt man, who was now sitting on my porch swing with his arms crossed, looking defiant. "Sergeant Miller," I said, cutting into their conversation. "I need to show you something. And you," I pointed at the stranger. "You need to listen, because you are not the tenant. You are just the first victim in line." I held up my phone, showing Miller the listing. "This was posted yesterday," I explained, pointing to the new tag on the screen. "The host is using a burner phone, and I just had another car pull up trying to check in. The person who listed this has sold the same dates to multiple people." Miller took my phone. He scrolled through the photos. He saw the chandelier. He saw the Brie C profile. "Okay," Miller said, his tone shifting. The bureaucratic boredom was gone. He looked at the stranger on the swing. "Sir, how much did you pay?" $1,200, the man said, looking less confident now. "For 3 nights." "And how did you pay?" Miller asked. "Through the app," the man said. "Well, partially. The host said the credit card processor was down, so she asked us to send the deposit via Cash App to secure the reservation instantly. She gave us a discount for doing it." "You paid off platform," I said. "That is the oldest trick in the book. There is no refund protection for that." The stranger's face went pale. He stood up. "Wait, are you saying the reservation isn't real?" "I am saying the house is real," I said. "But the person who took your money doesn't own it, and she just took money from a kid in a silver sedan, too." Miller handed my phone back to me. He turned to his partner. "All right, this is fraud. We have a pattern. Secure the scene. I want everyone's ID." He looked at the stranger. "Sir, I am going to need you to pack your things. I can't let you stay in a crime scene. You are a victim of fraud, and we will take your statement. But you are vacating this property tonight." The stranger didn't argue this time. He looked defeated. He looked at his wife, who was standing by the door holding their child's hand, and he nodded. I walked away from the porch, feeling a grim sense of satisfaction. The squatters were leaving, but the victory felt hollow. I found Grant standing by the hedge, staring at the ground. Donna was wiping her face with a handkerchief. Raymond was pacing. "They are leaving," I told Grant. "The police are classifying it as fraud." Grant nodded, but he didn't look relieved. He looked broken. "Harper," Donna said, her voice trembling. I need to tell you something." I looked at her. "What now, Donna?" "When Brielle asked for the money last week," Donna whispered, glancing at Grant to see if he was listening, "she told us she was in trouble with some bad people. Loan sharks, maybe, or an online investment that went wrong. She said she needed $5,000 by Monday, or she was going to be in legal trouble." I stared at her. "So she decided to sell access to my house to pay off a loan shark?" "We didn't know she would use the house," Donna cried. We thought she just needed the address to get a bank loan, to refinance her debt. That is why we agreed to come here. We thought if we were here, she would just get the mail and leave. I didn't know she would go this far." "She went this far because you let her think she could get away with it," I said. My voice was quiet, but it was sharper than a knife. "You covered for her. You knew she was desperate. You knew she was using my address, and you didn't warn me. You let me hand her the keys to my life." Donna lowered her head. "She is my daughter, Harper." "And Grant is your son," I said. "But you didn't protect him." I turned away from them. I couldn't look at them anymore. Their weakness disgusted me. I looked back at the house. The strangers were dragging their suitcases out the front door. The wheels made a hollow rumbling sound on the porch. My mind was racing. Brielle wasn't just a messy sister-in-law. She was a predator, and she had chosen my house for a reason. It was perfect. It was a new build in a new development. The neighbors didn't know us yet. To the people on this street, we were just faces in a driveway. If strangers came and went, nobody would call the police because nobody knew who belonged here. She had turned my sanctuary into a ghost hotel, a literal deposit box where she could extract cash from unsuspecting strangers and leave me to deal with the wreckage. I looked at the listing on my phone again. It was still active. Even as the police were taking statements, the listing was live. Someone else could be booking it right now. Someone else could be sending her $500 via Cash App. I realized then that kicking the strangers out was only the first step. If I didn't kill the listing, the people would keep coming. And if I didn't stop Brielle, she would just find another way to bleed us dry. I needed to go higher. I needed to talk to the platform's legal department. I needed to freeze the assets. And most importantly, I needed to make sure Brielle couldn't claim this was all a misunderstanding. I pulled up my email. I started drafting a message, not to the customer service bot, but to the corporate legal team of the rental platform. I knew how to find their address. I dealt with contracts for a living. Subject: urgent, fraudulent listing, police involvement, impersonation of homeowner. I attached the police case number Sergeant Miller had just given me. I attached the deed. I attached the photos. "Grant," I called out without turning around. "Yeah?" "Do not let your parents leave," I said. "They are going to be witnesses. And Grant, if you text Brielle and tell her to run, I will consider you an accessory to the crime." Grant looked at me. His face was pale, his eyes hollow. He looked at his phone, then put it in his pocket without unlocking it. "I won't," he said. "Good," I said, "because I am not just clearing the house. I am coming for the money she stole." The silence that filled my house on Saturday morning was heavy, thick, and suffocating. It was not the peaceful silence of a new home. It was the tense, electrified silence of a crime scene after the police tape has been taken down. I sat at the kitchen island, staring at the coffee maker. I had scrubbed the counters 3 times with bleach, but I still felt like I could smell the strangers. I could smell their cheap perfume, their takeout food, and the stale scent of their entitlement. Grant was sitting on the living room sofa, his head in his hands. We had barely spoken since the police left at 2 a.m. Sergeant Miller had given us a case number and a warning. "This is messy. Family fraud usually is." My phone lay on the marble countertop. It had been buzzing intermittently since dawn. Donna, Raymond, Brielle. I had ignored them all, needing a few hours of sanity before I faced the firing squad. But I could not ignore them forever. At 9 o'clock, the phone rang again. It was Donna. I looked at Grant. He didn't move. He didn't reach for the phone. He was paralyzed by the conflict, caught between the wife who had been wronged and the sister who had done the wronging. I picked up. "Harper." Donna's voice came through the speaker. She wasn't crying anymore. The hysteria from the night before had evaporated, replaced by a tone I recognized. It was her managing voice, the voice she used when she wanted to return a used dress to a department store without a receipt. "I am listening. Donna," I said, my voice flat. "I have been up all night," she started, the guilt trip loading instantly. "Your father-in-law's blood pressure is through the roof. We are just sick over this whole misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I repeated, looking at the drill holes in my front door frame which I could see from the kitchen. "Donna, your daughter sold access to my house to strangers. She cloned my digital keys. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a felony." "Oh, stop using those words," Donna snapped, her tone hardening. "Felony? Fraud? You sound like a lawyer. Brielle made a mistake. A stupid, desperate mistake. She is young. She was drowning in debt. Harper, she didn't know what else to do." "She could have asked for help," I said. "She could have gotten a second job. Instead, she turned my home into a hotel." "She is family," Donna's voice rose to a command. "And you do not call the police on family. You need to call that officer back. You need to tell him you want to drop the report. Tell him it was a miscommunication. Tell him you gave her permission but forgot." I gripped the phone tighter. "You want me to lie to the police? You want me to commit perjury to cover up for her?" "I want you to stop being so dramatic," Donna said. "Nobody got hurt. The people are gone. You have your house back. Why do you have to ruin her life over a bad weekend? If she gets a criminal record, She will never get a good job. Do you want that on your conscience?" I looked over at Grant. He was watching me now, his eyes pleading. Then Raymond's voice came into the background. He must have been listening on speaker. "Harper," Raymond said, his voice gruff and dismissive. "The house is still a house. It is just bricks and wood. You got it back. Nothing was stolen. Just let it go." That sentence hit me like a splash of ice water. The house is still a house. "No," I said. The word came out sharp, cutting through their rationalizations. "It is not just bricks and wood, Raymond. Do you understand what she did? She created a commercial enterprise on my property without insurance. If that kid last night had slipped and cracked his head open, I would be liable. If they had started a fire, my insurance would have denied the claim because it was an unauthorized rental. She didn't just borrow the house. She exposed Grant and me to financial ruin." "But nothing happened," Raymond argued. "You are talking about ifs. We are talking about reality. The reality is, you are about to send your sister-in-law to jail." "She sent herself," I said. "I am hanging up." I ended the call before they could say another word. My hands were shaking, not from fear, but from a rage so cold it felt like clarity. Grant stood up and walked into the kitchen. He looked tired. He looked like a man who just wanted the noise to stop, regardless of the cost. "They are right about one thing," Grant said softly. I turned to him slowly. "Excuse me?" "The record," Grant said, rubbing the back of his neck. "If you press charges, it stays with her forever. Harper, I am furious at her. I am, but she is my little sister. Maybe we can handle this internally? Make her pay us back? Make her sign a contract?" I looked at my husband. I saw the fatigue in his eyes, but I also saw something else. I saw the path of least resistance. He had spent his whole life smoothing things over for Brielle, cleaning up her messes so his parents wouldn't get upset. And now, he wanted me to pick up a broom. "Grant," I said, leaning against the counter, "there is a crack in the foundation." "What?" He looked around the room. "Where?" "In us," I said. "If you ask me to drop this, you are asking me to value her criminality over my safety. You are asking me to be a doormat. If I do that, I will never respect myself again, and I will never trust you to protect me." Grant flinched. He opened his mouth to argue, but his phone pinged. Then mine pinged. Then both of ours pinged again. It was Brielle. She hadn't called. She had sent a text message, a long, scrolling wall of gray text. I picked up my phone and began to read. "Harper, I know you are mad. I get it. I really do. But please, you have to understand. I was desperate. I owe $5,000 to some guys who don't take IOUs. I didn't want to bother you and Grant because you guys are always so perfect and busy with your big careers. I thought I could just rent it out for one weekend, make the money, and nobody would ever know. I was trying to solve my own problems without being a burden." I scoffed out loud. "Without being a burden." I read on. "I am sorry if it freaked you out. But honestly, you guys barely use the house. You have so much. You have the good jobs, the new car, the perfect marriage. I have nothing. I just needed a break. I didn't think you would go nuclear and call the cops. That was really intense. Harper, kind of overkill." I felt the blood rushing to my ears. She was apologizing and gaslighting me in the same paragraph. She was painting herself as the victim of my success. I didn't reply. I set the phone down. 5 minutes later, another text came through. The tone had shifted. The poor me act hadn't worked. So she was switching to the next tactic in the narcissist's playbook: aggression. "Are you seriously not going to answer me? Mom says you are filing a report. You need to stop. If you do this, you are destroying Grant's family. You are going to tear us apart over a stupid house. Do you really want to be that person? The bitter sister-in-law who put family in jail? Grant will never forgive you for this." I looked at Grant. He was reading the same messages on his phone. His face was pale. "She is threatening our marriage," I said calmly. "She is using you as leverage." Grant looked up. "I know." "So," I said, "are you going to let her?" Before he could answer, The doorbell rang. It wasn't the police. I checked the camera. It was Donna. She hadn't gone home. She had driven over. She was standing on the porch, smoothing her skirt, looking up at the camera with a determined, steely expression. She looked like a woman who was coming to speak to the manager. "She is here," I said. "I will handle it," Grant said, starting toward the door. "No," I said. I walked past him. "This is my house. This is my fight." I opened the door. I didn't invite her in. I stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance with my body. Donna looked at me, surprised by the barrier. She tried to smile, but it was tight and fake. "Harper," she said, "can I come in? I think we need to sit down and talk about this like adults, without the police, without the shouting." "We are not sitting down, Donna," I said, "and we are not talking about this." "We have to," she said, taking a step forward, expecting me to move. I didn't. "Brielle is a mess. She is hysterical. You have made your point. You scared her. That is enough punishment. Now, I need you to sign a waiver. I talked to a lawyer friend, and he said if you sign a non-prosecution form, this goes away." She reached into her oversized purse and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She had actually come prepared with paperwork. The audacity was breathtaking. "You brought a contract," I said, staring at the paper. "You didn't bring an apology. You brought a contract to silence me." "I am trying to fix this family," Donna said, her voice dropping to a harsh whisper. "You are new to this family. Harper, you don't understand how we do things. We protect each other. We don't air our dirty laundry to the state of North Carolina." "You don't protect each other," I said. "You protect Brielle. You have enabled her for so long that she thought it was okay to commit fraud against her own brother. And now you want me to enable her too." "She is just a girl," Donna shouted, losing her composure. "She made a mistake." "She is 29 years old," I said. "She is a grown woman, and she is a criminal." "If you don't drop this," Donna said, her eyes narrowing, "you are going to find yourself very lonely. Harper, Grant loves his sister. You are forcing him to choose, and blood is thicker than water." I looked past Donna, to where Grant was standing in the hallway behind me. He had heard every word. He looked at his mother, the woman who had manipulated him his whole life, and then he looked at me. "Grant," Donna called out to him, "tell your wife to be reasonable. Tell her to sign the paper." Grant walked up to the door. He stood next to me. He didn't look at his mother. He looked at the drill hole in the frame. "Go home, Mom," Grant said. His voice was quiet, but it was final. Donna gasped. "What did you say?" "I said go home," Grant repeated, looking up at her. "Harper is not signing anything, and neither am I." Donna looked as if he had slapped her. She stepped back, her mouth opening and closing. "You are making a mistake," she hissed. "You are choosing her over us." "I am choosing the person who didn't rob me," Grant said. I stepped forward, closing the distance between Donna and me. "Here is how this is going to work," I said. "You are going to leave. You are not going to come back until invited, which might be a very long time, and you are going to tell Brielle that if she contacts me again, for any reason other than through a lawyer, I will add harassment to the list of charges." "You are heartless," Donna spat. "No," I said. "I am a homeowner, and I am a person who has boundaries. You guys forgot what those were." I put my hand on the door. "One last thing," I said. "You asked me if I wanted to ruin her life? I didn't ruin anything. Whoever turned my house into a trap for strangers chose their own consequences. I am just the one who snapped it shut." I closed the door. I locked it. I turned the deadbolt. Then I looked at Grant. He was trembling slightly. "Are you okay?" I asked. "No," he said. "I feel terrible." "Good," I said, walking past him toward the kitchen. "That means you are finally waking up." Monday morning did not begin with a coffee and a commute. It began with a retainer fee. I sat in the plush leather chair of a law firm downtown, across from a woman named Eleanor Vance. Eleanor was a civil litigator with a reputation for being absolutely ruthless with contract disputes and property damage. I liked her immediately. She did not offer me sympathy. She did not ask me how I was feeling. She asked me for the documentation. I am not interested in a cease and desist letter, I told her, placing a heavy 3-ring binder onto her mahogany desk. I want to file a civil suit for damages, fraud, and emotional distress, and I want to ensure that the police report I filed on Friday night sticks. I need a liaison who can push the detective to view this as a criminal enterprise, not a domestic squabble. Eleanor opened the binder. I watched her eyes scan the first page. It was my table of contents. I had spent Sunday treating my trauma like a work project. I had compartmentalized the anger and turned it into data. "This is impressive," Eleanor murmured, flipping to the section labeled Timeline of Unauthorized Access. "Most clients come in here with a shoebox of crumpled receipts and a lot of tears. You have a forensic audit." "I am a project manager," I said. "I manage risk. My sister-in-law is a liability." The binder contained everything. Exhibit A. The security logs. I had spent 2 hours on the phone with the technical support tier for the smart lock company on Sunday. They had emailed me a certified report. It confirmed that the master reset command had been issued not from a glitch, but from a specific hardware bridge device plugged into a generic wall outlet. The device ID matched the one I had captured on video in Brielle's hand. Exhibit B. The listing. I had archived the webpage before the platform took it down. I had screenshots of the calendar showing booked dates for the next 4 weekends. This proved intent. It wasn't a one-time emergency. It was a business plan. Exhibit C. The inventory of destruction. I had gone through the house with a fine-toothed comb. The front door lock mechanism was destroyed, drilled through by an amateur. The door frame was splintered. The Persian rug in the living room had a red wine stain the size of a dinner plate. The refrigerator smelled like stale beer. "We are looking at about $4,000 in physical damages," I told Eleanor. "But the reputational damage to the property is harder to quantify. I have neighbors looking at me like I'm running a flophouse." "We will go for punitive damages," Eleanor said, making a note. North Carolina law allows for treble damages in cases of unfair and deceptive trade practices. If she was running a business, she falls under that statute. I left the office an hour later feeling lighter. I had a champion. Now, I needed to close the loop on the money. When I got home, Grant was in the driveway. He was loading the last of his parents' things, a forgotten umbrella, a cooler, into the trunk of his car to drop off at their apartment. He looked 10 years older than he had last week. "Did you talk to the lawyer?" he asked, leaning against the car door. "Yes," I said. "She is filing the paperwork tomorrow." "She won't," I said, my voice clinical. "That is manipulation. Grant, it is the last card in the deck when I'm sorry and you're mean don't work." "I know," Grant sighed. I wish there was another way." "There isn't," I said. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I usually didn't answer those, but since I had put my number on the police report, I couldn't risk missing a call from the detective. "This is Harper," I answered. "Hi," a female voice said. She sounded young and hesitant. Is this the owner of the house on Elmwood Drive?" "Who is asking?" I said, my guard going up instantly. "My name is Jessica," the girl said. "I found your number on the neighborhood Facebook group. Someone posted about the police raid on Friday. Look, I think I booked your house for next weekend." My grip on the phone tightened. "Next weekend?" "Yeah," Jessica said. "For a bachelorette party. We paid a deposit, $600, but now the listing is gone, and the host isn't replying to my texts. I just wanted to know if we can still come." "No," I said, trying to keep my voice gentle for this stranger who was just another pawn in Brielle's game. "You cannot come. The listing was fraudulent. The person who took your money did not have the right to rent it." "Oh my God," Jessica gasped. "But we sent the money. We sent it to her boyfriend." I froze. "Excuse me?" I said. "You sent it to whom?" "The host," Jessica explained. Bree, she said her account was locked, so we had to Venmo her boyfriend to hold the dates. His handle was Kyle T95. I grabbed a pen from my purse and scribbled the name on the back of a receipt. Jessica, I said, I need you to listen to me. You have been scammed, but if you want your money back, I need you to send me screenshots of that transaction. Right now, I am working with the police. Okay, she said, sounding close to tears. I will send it. I hung up and looked at Grant. Who is Kyle? I asked. Grant frowned. Kyle? That is the guy Brielle has been seeing. The entrepreneur. He sells, I don't know, supplements or something online. Why? Because, I said, holding up the receipt with the name written on it. Brielle isn't just a desperate girl trying to pay off a debt. She is part of a team. Jessica, a girl who booked for next weekend, sent $600 to Kyle. I saw the realization hit Grant like a physical blow. He staggered back slightly against the car. She involved Kyle? He whispered. He is… Harper. That guy has a record. He has been arrested for check fraud before. Well, I said, now he is going to be arrested for wire fraud, and your sister is his partner. This was the turning point. I could see it in Grant's face. Until this moment, he had been holding on to the sliver of hope that Brielle was just a messy, chaotic girl who made a bad choice. But hearing that she was funneling money to a known criminal changed the narrative. It wasn't a mistake. It was a racket. She lied to me, Grant said. His voice was hollow. She told me on Saturday that she did it alone. She swore on her life. She lied, I confirmed. And she is still lying. She probably has 3 other people booked for the end of the month. My phone pinged. It was the screenshot from Jessica, sent to Kyle Thompson, for luxury stay. I forwarded it immediately to my lawyer and to the email address Sergeant Miller had given me. Grant, I said, I need you to come inside. We walked into the kitchen. I opened my laptop. I pulled up the spreadsheet I had started. This is the damage, I said, pointing to the column of red numbers. But this? I clicked on the second tab. This is the revenue they generated. Based on the 2 groups I know about, the family on Friday and this girl Jessica, they have collected nearly $2,000 in 3 days. And if the calendar was fully booked, I dragged the cursor down. They were projected to make $5,000 this month, off our house. Grant stared at the screen. He looked at the numbers. He looked at the math of his sister's betrayal. She sold us, Grant said softly. She literally sold us. Yes, I said. And if we don't stop her, she will do it to someone else, or she will come back here the next time we go on vacation. Grant took a deep breath. He pulled his phone out of his pocket. I am going to call her, he said, his thumb hovering over her contact. No, I said sharply. I reached out and covered his hand. Grant looked at me, surprised. I need to tell her I know about Kyle. I need to tell her it is over. Not on the phone, I said. If you call her, she will cry. She will scream. She will manipulate you. And more importantly, there will be no record of it. I stood up straight, shifting back into project manager mode. From this moment on, I declared, setting a new boundary that felt as solid as the granite countertop. We do not speak to Brielle, Donna, or Raymond on the phone. We do not FaceTime. We do not meet for coffee. Then how do we talk to them? In writing, I said. Text messages, emails, registered letters, every single word that passes between our family and yours needs to be admissible in court. If they call, let it go to voicemail. Then text them back. I am busy. Please send a text. Grant hesitated. It was a hard habit to break. The instinct to just pick up the phone and yell. Grant, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Kyle has a record. This is now a criminal investigation involving multiple victims. If you call her and give her a heads up that we know about the money trail, the police could look at that as tipping off a suspect. Do you want to be an accessory? Grant swallowed hard. He put the phone down on the counter. Okay, he said. Writing only? Good, I said. Now, I am going to draft an email to your parents. I am going to explain exactly what we found. I am going to attach the screenshot of the payment to Kyle, and I am going to tell them that until Brielle turns herself in and returns the money to these victims, we are done. I sat down at the laptop and began to type. The keys clacked loudly in the quiet kitchen. To Donna Caldwell, Raymond Caldwell. CC, Grant Caldwell. Subject, Notice of Fraud Investigation regarding 4210 Elmwood Drive. I didn't write Dear Mom and Dad. I wrote Donna and Raymond. I laid out the facts. I attached the lock logs. I attached the listing. I attached the Venmo screenshot. I concluded with a paragraph that I knew would burn bridges, but those bridges were already rotten. We are no longer viewing this as a family matter. This is a criminal matter involving a third party, Kyle Thompson, and theft of funds from multiple victims. We have turned all evidence over to the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. Do not contact us asking to drop the charges. Any further attempts to intimidate or guilt trip us will be forwarded to our attorney. I hit send. I felt a strange sense of peace. I wasn't the victim anymore. I wasn't the daughter-in-law trying to please people who didn't respect me. I was the one holding the pen. Grant watched the email go out. He didn't ask me to unsend it. He just walked over to the fridge, took out a bottle of water, and stared at the empty space where the House Rules sign had been taped. I am sorry, he said, without looking at me. Don't be sorry, I said, closing the laptop. Be ready, because now that they know we have the money trail, they are going to panic. Tuesday morning brought a revelation that shifted the ground beneath my feet. I was sitting in Eleanor's office again, the smell of expensive coffee and old law books filling the air. We were supposed to be finalizing the civil complaint against Brielle, but Eleanor was not looking at the complaint. She was looking at her computer screen with a furrowed brow. Harper, she said, tapping her mouse. We got the data dump from the rental platform's legal team. They are cooperating because they want to avoid liability for the fraud. They sent over the entire user file for the host account, Bree C. Did you find the bank account? I asked, leaning forward. We found something more interesting, Eleanor said. To list a property on this specific tier, the luxury collection she was aiming for, the platform requires proof of ownership or a notarized letter of authorization from the deed holder. Brielle obviously doesn't have the deed, so she uploaded a document to bypass the verification filter. Eleanor turned the monitor toward me. It was a PDF scan of a single sheet of paper. The text was typed in a standard font, looking official but generic. The header read, Property Management Authorization Form. The text stated that the homeowners granted full operational control of the property at 4210 Elmwood Drive to Brielle Caldwell for the purpose of short-term leasing and maintenance. It is a forgery, I said immediately. I never signed that. Grant never signed that. Look at the bottom, Eleanor said. I looked. There were 2 signatures at the bottom of the page, scrawled in blue ink. They were not my signature. They were not Grant's. They read, Donna Caldwell and Raymond Caldwell. I stared at the screen. The signatures were shaky, but they were authentic. I had seen those signatures on birthday cards and Christmas checks for 10 years. They signed as the owners? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The platform didn't check the county deed registry, Eleanor explained. They just saw 2 people with the last name Caldwell signing off on the property, and the algorithm approved it. It was lazy compliance work on their end, but that is not the point. The point is, your in-laws didn't just know about the scheme. Harper, they authorized it. I felt a coldness spread through my chest that was entirely different from the anger I had felt toward Brielle. This was deeper. This was rot. They told me they thought she was just borrowing the address for a credit application, I said. Well, Eleanor said, printing the document. Unless they are illiterate, they knew exactly what they were signing. This document uses the words leasing, tenant, and rent 6 times. I took the paper. The paper felt heavy, like it was made of lead. I need to go, I said. I did not text them. I did not email them. I broke my own rule because this required a face-to-face demolition. I drove straight to Grant's office, picked him up, and told him to drive us to his parents' apartment. I didn't tell him why. I just held the folder in my lap, my knuckles white. When we arrived at their garden apartment in Gastonia, Donna opened the door. She looked haggard, her eyes swollen. When she saw us, her face lit up with a pathetic sort of hope. "Oh, Grant," she exhaled. "Harper, you came. Thank God. I knew you wouldn't let this drag on." We walked in. The apartment smelled of potpourri and anxiety. Raymond was sitting in his recliner, staring at a muted television. He stood up slowly when we entered. "We are here to finish this," I said. I didn't sit down. I walked to the dining table and cleared away a stack of magazines with a sweep of my arm. I slapped the paper down on the table. "Explain this," I commanded. Donna looked at the paper. She didn't need to read it. She recognized it instantly. Her hand flew to her mouth, and she let out a small, strangled noise. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. "From the evidence file," I said. "It is the document you signed giving Brielle permission to rent out my house, the house you do not own, the house you were pretending to be locked out of." Grant stepped forward. He looked at the paper, then at his mother. "Mom?" Grant asked. His voice was trembling. "You signed a management release? You told me you didn't know she was renting it." I didn't read it," Donna stammered, backing away. "She brought it to us last Tuesday. She was crying. She said she needed us to sign a form so she could use the address for a job, a property management job. She said she needed to show she had experience managing a family asset. We thought we were just helping her build her resume." "Bull," I said. I slammed my hand on the table. "Stop lying. Donna, read the first line. Authorization for short-term leasing. It is in bold. It is size 14 font. You are telling me you signed a legal document for your daughter without reading the title?" Donna looked at Raymond, desperate for help. "Ray, tell them. Tell them we didn't know." Raymond didn't speak. He looked at the floor. He looked old and defeated. "Raymond?" I asked, turning my focus to him. "Did you read it?" He sighed, a long, rattling sound in his chest. "Yes," Raymond said softly. "Ray!" Donna shrieked. "Stop it, Donna," Raymond snapped. It was the first time I had ever heard him raise his voice at her. "They have the paper. It is over." He looked at Grant, his eyes wet with shame. "We knew," Raymond admitted. Grant looked like he had been punched in the gut. He grabbed the back of a chair to steady himself. "You knew? You knew she was going to put strangers in our house?" "She was in trouble, Grant," Raymond said, sinking back into his recliner. "Real trouble. Not just credit card debt. She got involved with a group, an investment circle, crypto or something. She lost everything. And she lost other people's money, too. $20,000. $20,000, Grant repeated. "They were threatening to come to her work," Raymond said, rubbing his face with his hands. "They were going to expose her. She was terrified. She came to us begging for money, but we don't have it. You know we don't have it." "So you gave her my house instead," I said. The logic was so twisted it made me dizzy. "She said it would just be for one weekend," Raymond continued, his voice monotone. "She said there was a big event in town, a concert or something. She said she could make $2,000 in 3 days if she rented out a luxury place. She begged us. She said if we helped her do this one thing, she could pay off the interest and buy herself time." "So you signed the paper," I said, "and then you agreed to go stay at the house to facilitate the handover." "We were supposed to leave," Donna sobbed, finally dropping the act. "The plan was, we would go over, unlock the door with the code Harper gave us, and then leave the key under the mat for the renters. We were supposed to go to a motel, but then we got there, and the door locked us out." "And when I called," I said, piecing it together, "when I called and asked what was happening, you pretended to be victims. You pretended you were scared of the strangers, but you knew exactly who they were. You knew they were Brielle's customers." "We were scared," Donna cried. "We didn't know she had changed the locks. We didn't know she had drilled the door. We thought she was just going to give them the code. When we saw the drill, we realized it had gone wrong, but we couldn't tell you. We couldn't tell you that we helped her set it up. So you watched me call the police, I said. You watched me panic. You watched your son drive like a maniac to save you, and you stood there and lied to our faces to protect her. We were trying to protect everyone, Donna insisted. If you found out, we knew you would hate her. We thought if we just played dumb, the police would kick the people out, and we could scold Brielle privately later. We didn't think you would investigate it like the FBI. Grant was silent. He was looking at his parents as if they were strangers. You chose her, Grant said. His voice was so quiet it was terrifying. You sacrificed my marriage. You sacrificed Harper's safety. You sacrificed my trust, all to cover for Brielle. She is your sister, Donna wailed. She is the baby. You are strong. Grant, you and Harper are successful. You can handle a little trouble. Brielle, she breaks so easily. She breaks because you never let her hit the ground, I said. I looked at the document on the table. It was the smoking gun. It proved conspiracy. It proved that my in-laws were not just passive enablers. They were active participants in the fraud. Do you know what this means? I asked them. This document makes you liable. When I sue Brielle for the damages and the fraud, I am going to have to name you as co-defendants because you signed your names as the liable parties. You wouldn't, Raymond said, looking up with fear in his eyes. Harper, we are retired. We live on a fixed income. You wouldn't sue us. You sold my house, I said. You signed a piece of paper claiming you had the right to rent out my property. That is fraud. You committed fraud against me. Grant! Donna turned to him, clutching his arm. Talk to her. She is talking about suing us. We are your parents. Grant pulled his arm away. He stepped back, putting distance between himself and his mother. I can't stop her, Grant said. And I don't want to. Donna froze. What? I asked you on Friday if you knew, Grant said, his voice rising. I asked you to your face, and you looked me in the eye and lied. You watched me cry over this. You watched Harper have a panic attack, and you just kept lying. We were ashamed, Raymond whispered. We didn't want the neighbors to know our daughter was a crook. So you made my wife the victim instead, Grant said. Grant turned to me. I am done. Let's go. Harper, Donna pleaded, reaching across the table. Please, we will pay you back. We will take out a loan. Just don't file the paper. Don't put this on the record. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had criticized my wedding dress, who had made snide comments about my long work hours, who had always told Grant he could do better. It is already on the record, I said. My lawyer uploaded it to the case file an hour ago. I turned and walked to the door. Grant followed me. Harper, Donna screamed after us. You are destroying this family. I paused at the threshold. I didn't turn around. No, Donna, I said. I am just the one turning on the lights. You are the ones who decided to live in the filth. We walked out to the car. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. The birds were singing. It felt surreal that the world could be so bright when my husband's family had just imploded. Grant got into the driver's seat. He didn't start the car. He gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white, and then he leaned his forehead against the leather. He started to cry. It wasn't a loud cry. It was the silent, shaking sobbing of a man who has just realized he is an orphan. I am so sorry, he choked out. I am so sorry. I reached over and put my hand on his back. I didn't offer empty platitudes. I didn't say it's okay, because it wasn't. Drive, I said softly. We have one more stop to make. Where? Grant asked, wiping his eyes. The police station, I said. We need to hand over the document, and then we need to change the locks on your life. I looked out the window as we pulled away. The revelation had changed everything. This wasn't just about money anymore. It wasn't about a stained rug or a broken door frame. It was about the fact that there were 3 people in that family who believed they had the right to consume me. They believed that because I was strong and successful, I was a resource to be harvested to save the weak one. They thought I was an endless well of forgiveness. They were about to find out that I was a drought. Grant, I said as we merged onto the highway. I want to be clear about something. Anything, he said. If we do this, I said, if we hand this paper to Detective Miller, your parents might face charges, aiding and abetting, fraud. At the very least, they will be deposed and humiliated. I know, Grant said. Are you ready for that? I asked. Because once I give this to the police, I cannot take it back. There is no family discount in criminal court. Grant looked at the road, his jaw set hard. They signed the paper, Grant said. They made their choice. Now we make ours. Okay, I said. I opened my phone and sent a text to Eleanor. The parents confessed. They signed it. Proceed with the filing. The twist wasn't that they were evil villains wringing their hands. The twist was far more pathetic and far more human. They were cowards. And cowards, I had learned in my line of work, caused more damage than villains ever could. Because a villain attacks you from the front. A coward opens the back door and lets the wolves in while telling you they love you. I wasn't just suing for damages, I was suing for the truth. And the truth was expensive. The conference room at the district attorney's office was cold, sterile, and smelled faintly of floor wax and stale coffee. It was a room designed for uncomfortable conversations, with a long laminate table that acted as a demilitarized zone between the opposing sides. On one side sat my legal team, Eleanor, myself, and a silent, pale Grant. On the other side sat Brielle, flanked by a public defender who looked overworked and tired. Behind her, sitting on plastic chairs against the wall like parents waiting outside a principal's office, were Donna and Raymond. They looked smaller than I had ever seen them. The arrogance of the weekend, the "it's just a house" attitude, had evaporated under the harsh fluorescent lights of legal scrutiny. Brielle was putting on a performance worthy of an Academy Award. She was wearing a loose gray cardigan I had never seen before, no makeup, and her hair was pulled back in a messy, humble bun. She was trying to project the image of a confused, overwhelmed young woman who had just made a tiny administrative error. I never meant to hurt anyone, Brielle sniffed, wiping her nose with a tissue. She looked at the detective standing by the door, then at me. I was just under so much pressure. Harper knows how hard it is. She knows I've been struggling. I thought since we were family, it wouldn't be a big deal. I thought they would want to help me. Her public defender leaned forward. My client admits to a lapse in judgment. However, we believe criminal fraud charges are excessive. This is, at its heart, a domestic dispute. Miss Caldwell intended to pay back the homeowners with the proceeds. There was no malicious intent to permanently deprive them of property. I felt Grant stiffen beside me. I placed a hand on his arm to keep him quiet. I did not need Grant to fight this battle. I had brought my own weapons. Miss Caldwell, I said, my voice cutting through the room like a razor. This was not a lapse in judgment. It was a business plan. I nodded to Eleanor. She connected her laptop to the large monitor on the wall. We are not here to discuss feelings, I continued, standing up. We are here to establish the timeline of the fraud. The screen lit up. I had created a Gantt chart, a standard project management tool I used every day at work. But instead of construction milestones, it charted Brielle's deception. August 1st, 11:40 a.m., I narrated, pointing to the first bar on the chart. Defendant enters the property using a garage code stolen from the homeowners. Video evidence confirms she is alone. I clicked the remote. A screenshot of Brielle in my kitchen appeared. August 1st, 11:45 a.m., I continued. Defendant uses a hardware bridge to factory reset the smart lock, effectively locking out the legal owners. This required purchasing specific equipment beforehand. That proves premeditation. Brielle shrank in her chair. She didn't look at the screen. August 1st, noon, I said. Defendant lists the property on 3 separate short-term rental platforms under the alias Bree C and the Blue Door Group. She uploads a forged power of attorney document signed by Donna and Raymond Caldwell. I looked at Donna. She flinched as if I had thrown a stone at her. And finally, I said, clicking to the last slide, August 2nd, Defendant accepts 4 separate deposits for the same dates, one from the family currently sitting in the hallway, and 3 others via wire transfer to her associate, Kyle Thompson. I turn to the public defender. That is not a domestic dispute. That is a racketeering enterprise involving identity theft, forgery, and wire fraud. The intent was not to borrow. The intent was to extract maximum cash before getting caught. The door opened, and the detective ushered in a man. It was the stranger from Friday night, the man in the flannel shirt. His name was Mr. Henderson. He did not look happy. "Mr. Henderson," the detective said, "is this the woman who rented you the property?" Mr. Henderson looked at Brielle. "Yeah, that is her. She met us at the Starbucks on Main Street. She gave us the key fob. She told us to ignore the neighbors if they asked questions because they were nosy." He turned to the table, his face red with anger. "I had my 6-year-old daughter in that house. We were sleeping there when the police banged on the door. Do you know what that felt like? Thinking we were about to be arrested? You took $1,200 from me, lady. That was our vacation money." Brielle started to cry, louder this time. She turned in her chair, reaching out toward her parents. "Mom!" she wailed. "Dad, do something. Tell them I didn't mean it. They are going to send me to jail." Donna stood up, her maternal instinct overriding her shame. "Harper, please, look at her. She is terrified. Mr. Henderson, we can pay you back, my husband and I. We will cash out a bond. We will pay everyone back. Just drop the charges. Please don't ruin her future." She looked at Raymond, urging him to speak, but Raymond sat frozen. He was looking at the forged document on the screen, the one with his signature on it. He realized, perhaps for the first time, that his blind loyalty to his daughter had led him to the edge of a cliff. He couldn't look at Harper. He couldn't look at anyone. "We can't pay them back, Donna," Raymond whispered hoarsely. "We don't have the money. Brielle lost $20,000. We don't have it." "We will find it," Donna insisted, turning to Grant. "Grant, you have money. You and Harper. You just bought this big house. You can loan it to us, just to cover the victims. We will pay you back over time. Please, son, don't let your sister go to prison." The room went silent. All eyes turned to Grant. It was the dynamic that had ruled his life for 30 years. Brielle makes a mess. The parents panic, and Grant pays the bill. Grant stood up. He looked at his mother, then at his sister, who was looking at him with wide, expectant eyes. "No," Grant said. Donna blinked. "What?" "I said no," Grant repeated. His voice wasn't loud, but it was steady. "I am not paying for this, and I am not asking Harper to pay for this." "But she is family," Donna cried. "She stole from me," Grant said. "She stole from my wife. She lied to my face, and you helped her." He took a deep breath, and then he delivered the sentence that shattered the room. "You didn't just scam strangers, Brielle," Grant said, looking directly at his sister. "You scammed us. You sold my trust for $1,200. That was the price you put on our relationship. So no, I am not going to bail you out. If I pay for this, you will never learn. You will just find another victim." Brielle's face twisted from sorrow to ugly rage. "You are selfish. You always have been. You think you are better than us because you married her." She pointed a shaking finger at me. "He is better than you," I said calmly, "because he knows the difference between right and wrong." I turned to the detective and the lawyers. "Here is the deal," I said. "I am willing to drop the civil suit for damages to the property, which will save you thousands in legal fees, but I have conditions, and they are non-negotiable." "What conditions?" the public defender asked, looking relieved to have an off-ramp. "1," I listed, counting on my fingers. "Brielle accepts a plea deal for the fraud charges regarding Mr. Henderson and the other victims. She pays them back every single cent, even if it takes her 10 years of garnishing her wages. Grant and I will not contribute a penny." "Agreed," the lawyer said. 2, I continued. "I want a permanent restraining order. Brielle is not allowed within 500 feet of my home or my place of employment. If she violates it, we go straight back to court. Brielle sobbed, but her lawyer nodded. And 3, I said, turning to look at Donna and Raymond. This one is for the co-conspirators. Donna held her breath. You signed a fraudulent document claiming ownership of my home, I said. I won't press charges for the forgery if you sign a formal admission of guilt today. This document will be held by my attorney. If you ever, and I mean ever, attempt to interfere in our lives, harass us, or disparage us to the family again, I will release that admission to the police and file for felony fraud against you both. You want to blackmail us? Donna whispered, horrified. No, I said. I want to bond you to the truth. You have spent your whole lives covering things up. Now, you are going to live with the truth hanging over your heads. Harper, Donna said, tears streaming down her face. Please, we are family. Can't we have another chance? We will be better. We will respect your rules. Just don't make us sign that. She reached out a hand toward me, a gesture of pleading. I looked at her hand. I remembered the way she had hugged me at my wedding. I remembered the way she had looked at me when I gave her the key code, smiling and promising to take care of my plants. I gave you a chance, Donna, I said, my voice final. I gave you a chance the moment I handed you the digital key to my sanctuary. I trusted you with the most valuable thing I own. I leaned in closer. You don't repay a chance by changing the locks, I said. You repay it by protecting the house. You failed, and now the locks are changed for good. I turned to Eleanor. Draw up the papers. We walked out of the room 10 minutes later. We left them there, a family of 3, arguing in hushed, frantic tones, pulling each other apart as the reality of restitution and criminal records set in. They were drowning. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel the urge to jump in and save them. I stayed on the shore. 6 months later, the evening sun was setting over Charlotte, casting long golden shadows across the lawn of 4210 Elmwood Drive. I stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for a salad. The new quartz countertop was cool under my fingers. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. Grant was on the patio, grilling steaks. He was laughing with his friend Mike, who had come over for dinner. Mike knew the story. Mike respected the boundaries. I looked at the front door. We had replaced the entire frame. The new lock was a commercial-grade system with dual authentication, but more importantly, the code was known only to 2 people, me and Grant. There were no more surprise visits. There were no more guilt-trip phone calls on Sunday mornings. The silence from Gastonia was absolute, enforced by the legal document sitting in Eleanor's safe. Brielle was serving probation and working 2 shifts at a warehouse to pay back Mr. Henderson. Donna and Raymond were living their lives, presumably telling anyone who would listen that their daughter-in-law was a monster. I didn't care. Let them talk. I had the deed. I wiped my hands on a towel and walked to the front door. I opened it and stepped out onto the porch. The air was fresh. The neighborhood was peaceful. I looked at the spot where the stranger had stood, holding his phone, telling me he had a contract. It felt like a lifetime ago. I had reclaimed this space. I had scrubbed the stain out of the rug, but I had also scrubbed the stain out of my marriage. Grant walked up the steps, holding a platter of food. He stopped when he saw me staring at the driveway. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah," I smiled. "I am just checking the perimeter." "It is safe," Grant said, kissing my forehead. "Nobody is getting in." "I know," I said. I turned back to the house. The warm light spilled out from the windows, welcoming us in. It wasn't just a structure of wood and brick anymore. It was a fortress. It was a testament to the hardest lesson I had ever learned, that sometimes keeping the wrong people out is more important than inviting people in. I walked inside and locked the door behind me. Click. This isn't just a house. This is the territory of truth, and anyone who steps inside must pay the price of admission. Respect. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you guys are tuning in from. Are you listening while driving, cooking dinner, or maybe relaxing before bed? Please let me know in the comments below. I love reading about where my stories travel to. And if you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to Lila Revenge Stories. Hit that like button and smash the hype button so this video can reach more people who need a little justice in their day.